In this video, we're going to look at the logistical section of the event form. So there's a lot of information here, but for the most part, they're pretty straightforward questions. And I'm going to walk us through each one so that you guys can get an idea of what the overall intention was. So in the upper left, we've got whether or not the event requires logistical support. This is a simple toggle, so you can simply left click in order to turn it to yes or no. Then we have who is the on-site rep, and this is typically the person that is running around doing errands, getting food ready, making sure there's snacks available, while the trainer or instructor or submitter or somebody else is busy with the actual class. Usually there's another person running logs. The next field is probably the most important one here. This is the logs plan field. If you hover over any of these, you'll get a description of what we're looking for. And in this case it says, what's the full logistical plan for this event? Capture the who, what, where, and when of all the logs related items here. And so basically, as you are filling all this out, there's kind of a concept of operations or a course of action, basically like specific to logs, that you can put in here. And that way, whoever the logs rep is for this geographic area can come here and get a pretty good idea of what you're aiming for, and then they can go back and look at the different fields to see if it's going to be a successful plan. And if not, they may work with a submitter in order to make sure that it's going to succeed. If we scroll down a little bit, we have some gear cache items. And this is to indicate whether or not you need to pull stuff out of an equipment cache. And so if so, you'd click the box to say yes, and you'd put in the information there. A little bit similar, but sometimes different, are whether there's any kits required. So a kit could be pretty much any type of kit that TR has. It could be a muck out kit, a Sawyer kit, could be an admin kit with printers and stuff like that, pens and paper. Could be a tech kit with the laptops and Palantir phones in it. And because the kits are not always housed with the gear caches, we kept it separate for now. Each territory may handle this a little bit different. And we're also, at the moment, we're playing around with which format we like. In this case, I think this format where the label's on top and the boxes on the bottom provides a little bit more room, so we'll probably be changing a lot of these to match this. Going into the middle now, we've got a shipping area to determine whether or not something needs to be shipped. And if there is something that needs to be shipped, we need the details to be put in here, and of course, what date does it have to be there by? The next block is fairly important. This is any rental vehicle information. And you can see there's a lot of fields here, but that's because the rental vehicles are one of the most complained about complex pieces of an event in some cases. And so in this example, we've got 3 different drivers. And again, all TR drivers have to be over 25, so we put our little reminder there. What type of vehicles do they need? Where are they going to pick them up and drop them off? Because that can be different. You can have your event in one city, but your pickup and drop off locations could be 2 totally different or 3 total different cities, depending on what's going on. We've got another checkbox here for whether or not an equipment trailer or a regional trailer is required. And then we've got whatever details, so another text field. So in this case, if we hover over it, we can see some of what it's looking for. So we've got an example here of 2 15-passenger shuttle vans would need to be picked up and dropped off in the same place by Rick and Jeanette. And then we have an F-250 that we're going to use in order to be able to tow the trailer. And in this case, we're going to say we're going to pick it up in Boise, take it to the event, and then we need to drop it off in Portland because the trailer needs to get back to Portland. In this example. So there's a lot of trailer movement that can be separate from the events, or sometimes we just leverage an event to move the trailers for maintenance or whatever the case may be. We also have an accommodations section, so this is where we can record the information about where the people are going to be staying for this particular event. So we have yet another yes no. We have the name of the accommodation. This might be a gym or hotel or an armory or whatever. We've got a drop down here for the different type of accommodations that it is, just so that we can track that as a stat later on if we need to. And then of course we have another text field that will allow us to put in the information specific for this event. Then we have an admin section. And if you recall the video on master lists, we have logs, comms, finance, and training representatives that are put into the master lists, so that for this geographic area, in this case, we do have a logs representative. So Andy is, in this case, assigned to work with the submitter to make sure that all the stuff's filled out correctly, that all the logs gotchas are handled, that the plan makes sense, and that way when Andy comes in here, he can say there's either changes recommended, or that the review is in progress, or that he supports the plan. And he can put in any other notes here. And any notes that come here, let's say he were to say changes recommended, whenever he hits save, that would go back to the event submitter to say that there's changes recommended and here they are. And so that's the important field if you want to communicate back to the submitter if you happen to be the logs rep. Or the approver, if there is no logs rep, then the approvers would be looking at this section and potentially filling it out as well. A lot of times logs has to order things from the NOC or from Home Depot or from a third-party source, and to do that right now they have a request to do a 213RR and send that to the NOC. So this is just a reminder for the logs rep to see whether or not there was one required, and if so, was it completed and sent in. As soon as you hit save, whoever actually reviewed this section, their name and date would populate in here as well. And so this is something, these areas can be useful to the approvers to make sure that the logs point of contacts or the various points of contacts or reps have gone in there and made sure that this is a sane plan. So that's it for the logs piece of this event. I do want to show you another window. This is what the logs view looks like for anybody who is a logs rep, or really anybody that wants to. They can select the logs support requested dropdown from the event area. If they use this dropdown, then they're going to see all the different events that had yes for support requested. They can see the status of that event, the start date, who the lead is that they need to work with, and then all the yeses and nos that you saw on the previous page come out here as well, so that they can see all that stuff at a glance. And what that allows the logs reps to do is they can look at the start dates, and they can look at what things are required. Like in this case, we've got a couple of them that are on the 21st. And so if both of them were asking for a specific kit, then that allows them to take a look to see whether or not it's available. And if it's not available, then they can go into one of the events and make sure the submitter knows. Maybe they changed the dates, or they got to move some stuff around, or whatever the case may be. But this is our attempt to try to get things out at a higher level for visibility. We'll also be publishing an event logistical checklist. This was put together by Region 5 to act as a brainstorming device. And so there's lots of different sections in here. These two fields, when you put in the number of days and the number of people expected, this is going to help down a little bit lower. The rest of these are pretty straightforward questions for fob, security, parking, rental vehicles, billeting, lots of different things here. But in the food section, we're going to bring in those other two fields from above, and then we have the TR standard dollar amounts that are in here. And as we change the number of people, then the overall number of, or amount of PEX funding to request specific for food will go up or down, and all these calculations are automatic and fairly hard-coded. So right now we've got 3 and 20. Let's say that we want to change our number of people down to 15. Now we've got a new total to request, and that would go back into the event, into the finance section. But since it's kind of a logs related thing, we did include it here, and it's also a highly requested feature. So for now, we've got a separate spreadsheet. In the future, we're looking to build that into the VMS, but that might take a little bit longer. Then we've got trash gear, swag, and emergency stuff. So this is just designed to be a good brainstorming exercise. And then when you're done here, you would put that information, like whatever you decide, you'd fill out the rest of these fields based on that brainstorming. So just an optional tool there for people if they choose to use it. That's it for this video. Thank you for staying with me here on a longish video. Logistical stuff is definitely one of the most frustrating things about an event for most of the parties that are involved, and so we're hoping that these fields are enough to track everything. But if you have suggestions on anything else that should be added, something that's critical, give us some feedback at the email address that you'll see below, and we'll see you in the next video.